name is Peters, and I am a product manager. So this is a very innovative idea, and first off, everybody is a consumer, and so this is the voice of the consumer, and this is a voice that is going to be heard. For the first time, the consumers in this country are going to be able to express their ideas and to get to know your rights, to know what belongs to you. And it's going to change a lot of branding. It's going to change a lot of things, because everybody knows that we're not just getting things out for the consumers. The consumers have a right to accept. You know, as they say, the customer is always right. So the customer is the consumer, and the consumer is always right. So, you know, when there is control, when there is feedback, there is bound to be change. So so I said, I'm a product manager. When you develop products, sometimes you believe you know what the users want, and through different kinds of surveys. But when the users actually get the product, they can tell you their mind, how the product is, their feeling about the product. So it's good to definitely change how products are being designed, how services are being given to people, because you can get a feedback, and that feedback can make or mar a company, you know, and everybody wants to have good feedback. So it's definitely going to change the behavior of people that make products. One very good thing is information. Information is power. So the consumer is going to get way more powerful. The voice of the consumer will be heard, the opinions of the consumers will be heard, and that opinion will shape how products and services will be made in this country going forward. Be on the lookout. You are now in charge. Several things coming your way through this station. I'm very excited about it. The things he's already brought out, and there will be many more things. But the bottom line, the consumer is now in the driver's seat. So ConsumerHallaTV, thank you for this innovative work. You're going to keep evolving, and just follow the consumers. The consumers will lead you to what they want, and that's how it's supposed to be, always. They're going to have different types of consumers, and they're going to pander to the different needs. But you are going to be making consumers very, very powerful. So, thumbs up. Keep up the good work. My name is Peters. Thank you very much.
welcome back to another edition of Healthy Living. Before we went on the break, we're talking a little bit about puberty and how puberty ranges between female and male. We all know that when we're younger, maybe when we're in secondary school, around GS1, GS2, we're taught that puberty is the transitioning from a child to being an adult. But in real time, it's just you still being a teenager, or even you being in your mid-teenage years. Some people, we all know that puberty age range then, as it was given to us, was for a female, maybe around 9 to 14, and for male children, around 10 to 15, which normally most people don't attain puberty at that particular age. We just know that it happened, and everybody starts what we call the menstrual flow. That's where many people think they start their puberty from, which may not be truth. And like I said, we're bringing a seasoned doctor, somebody that knows what puberty really is, and who can help explain this to us extensively, so that we can understand and also get to know how we can help our children. And these days we know that things are very different. We all know that life changes, and 2025 is a new year, and I came across a video from this particular doctor, Dr. Damien Ava. Good morning, Dr. Damien Ava. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, like before we went on the break, we were talking a little bit about puberty, and I told them I'm not a doctor. I just run a program that speaks specifically about health, and it's always good to bring somebody that is that understand this particular issue deeper than us, the consumers. And we all know that you don't need to go to the hospital to get education, and that's why I'm very, very grateful for people like you, health influencers like you, that come on the social media to educate people a little bit better about our health and how well we can best maintain our physical health. And these are things that, yes, we really need, and that's why you actually deserve an applaud from everybody watching your Instagram. Just if I didn't mention it before, this person has a little over 195,000 followers on Instagram, and I've been following this person for quite a while now. I would listen to him sometimes. I'll be like, okay, what's really going on? And then we'll talk a little bit. I would go to the comment section, also learn from the comment section. And like I always say on the show, please, the internet is not your doctor. If you feel like you have something going on with you, sometimes when you go and search for what is going on with you, you may think, oh, this is what you're having, because you have a lot of similarities with the symptoms that we are seeing online or what somebody's talking about. Always visit the medical hospital so that you can get confirmation of what is really going on with you. But this morning we'll be talking specifically about puberty, because I came across a video on your page talking about puberty, and you were mentioning the fact that puberty, the age range of puberty, how we attain puberty, that we would really need a connection from God, or like maybe you have a connection from somebody. I love that phrase, before you can attain puberty. But now it's very easy. Like the statistics is quite dropping because of how high and how fast children of nowadays attain puberty. But before the video, let's explain or help us buttress a little bit what puberty is, because how we were explained to when we were in secondary school, I don't think that's really what it is.
Okay, thank you for a very wonderful introduction. Thank you also for the commendation as well. Now to the question, what exactly is puberty? Now, the layman out there who may not really have a thorough grasp of the meaning of puberty, it means the development of a brain, or you can say the phase is like a transition phase, which your child, your son or your daughter starts to get to the point where a productive mindset. In other words, that's of your probably was just a boy or a child, suddenly is beginning to develop features that they are being sexually. So it's just that phase of sexual maturity where a child or an adolescent be mature. That phase is what we call puberty. And like you rightly mentioned, it's an important phase. It's a phase or the stage of sexual maturation or reproductive capacity. Now, prior to that, the child is just a child, so to speak, even if the child is 10 years old. Before puberty, the child is essentially just a child. So when it gets to the point of puberty, a lot of things, very interesting things begin to happen. The body is changing, even the mind is changing, the way they think is changing. And of course, the greatest worry for most parents when their children are attaining puberty is that, well, since they are becoming sexually mature, there is that possibility that their interest in health related is become heightened. So you have a child who probably the first 10 years or thereabout life never interested in anything sex. The child begins to pay attention to sexual content, especially in our time where there is you virtually go a day without or go through 2, 3 scrolls on Instagram or social media without saying something that is highly sexualized. So these are some of the issues, and I think that video you reference is timely because people need to start paying attention to this particular trend that we are seeing.
All right, thank you very much for that beautiful explanation right there. And talking about the sexual aspect, I think we'll come to that later because I'm really, really interested in the age dropping factor. What's really causing those age dropping factor? But before you answer that for us, let's quickly play the video I saw on Instagram that made me, message you to say, oh, I really think you need to be on the program this morning.
An increase from 0.6 to 1.4% was noted in girls who started menses before age 9, while an increase from 8.6 to 15.5% was noted in girls who started before age 11. So, what exactly is going on? Okay, so what we know is that over the last century, the average age of menstruation has dropped by about 3 years globally, with experts linking that drop to problems with nutrition, obesity, and exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals found in plastics, food, and the environment. Now, in case you are wondering, this is a major problem we have in our hands, because you see, this early onset of puberty is actually associated with higher risks of health and social problems like depression, low self-esteem, sexualization and abuse, or even early pregnancy, plus a higher risk of cancer in later life. We basically have 9-year-olds with hips, hormones, and periods who are still playing with teddy bears and watching cartoons. So we actually have a lot of work to do in ensuring that our young girls get proper and timely education on how their bodies are changing, providing them access to therapy and other necessary support they may need. May God help us.
All right, you've just seen the video I saw, and that video was quite shocking because during our when I was a little bit younger, much younger, obviously, people actually see their period as of the age of 9, 10, which is not really, it was not even common. It was very rare phenomenon for you to see somebody that started their period at the age of 9 or 10 years old. During that time, it was more of, 13, 14 years old before you can see your period. And I understand why you said you need a special connection to be able to see your period early when the years were kind of back those days. But now in 2025, it seems like the statistics are changed, and that is why we needed a medical doctor in the house this morning for us to be able to talk about this issue. And you mentioned the issues of nutrition, you mentioned obesity. We've spoken about obesity on the program before, we've spoken about diet on the program, and you also mentioned about a chemical reaction, and I don't want to say the name so I don't mispronounce it. And you also mentioned plastic food, which is very common these days. Everybody buy food in plastic. In fact, people microwave microwave food in plastic. Gone are those days that microwave wasn't really a thing that we use in Nigeria, but right now microwave is almost everything. Even when you want to go and buy food at a restaurant, they microwave your food for you and it is inside plastic. And our children eat that food. And so how does this relate to the issue of age dropping in puberty, to be precise?
Okay, so like I mentioned in the video, agreeing a drop of about 3 years, last century in the age of puberty. Before now, for girls, it used to be age between 8 and age 13, 14. Now, it's important that this clarification. When we say puberty, puberty is not just a symptom. Usually, there are a series of events, biological changes or body changes that throughout the onset of puberty. So, for girls, for example, what we call telarchy is the onset of breast bud, and the lady or the girls that develop breast buds, right? That is what telarchy. And that is the first phase of puberty. Now, when we say age 8 to age 13 for girls, telarchy typically starts around age 8. It doesn't mean that it must start around 8, but it happens at age 8, it becomes a case of precocious puberty or early puberty. Now, looked at the video, my emphasis even on menses. So, all things being equal, it's unusual for this to even be happening below age 10. All right, because let's even as the lady starts telarchy with the sprouting of breast buds at age 8. We expect that in another 3 years' time, menses should start. But what we're seeing is a case where the breasts are burdened before age 8, and then menses starting before age 10. And globally speaking, we are seeing the trend or the average age is dropping. Similarly, we are also seeing the same voice. It's just the effect is a lot more felt in girls. So girls are at the voice as well, but it's a lot more pronounced in girls. So girls who were previously having their mens an average 13, we are now seeing them having their menses at age 9, 10 thereabout. Okay. Now this is important. The reason it is important is because, of course, with industrialization, more people are taking to Western lifestyles. We are seeing a rise in cases of obesity, not just obesity, childhood obesity. So we are seeing children who are even obese, and of course, by getting to 7, 8 thereabout, obesity, there is a mechanism that ends it. But essentially, is that obesity, childhood obesity, is one of the factors. Now, what are the factors? This is take Western lifestyle. We are too much junks. We are eating too. In fact, there was a time I was addressing a group of mothers because there is this for them to want to start feeding their babies sugar, giving the baby put sugar in and stuff like that. We are to a very large extent taking to a lifestyle that will produce the children to pain things like which eventually increases their risk of developing type 2 diabetes and other health problems. The culprit here is diet. Diet has a link to obesity. Obesity also has a link to early puberty we are seeing. Now, something else that I also mentioned is that we are getting exposed to endocrine disrupting chemicals or disrupting When we say endocrine agents, these are chemicals or these are agents have the capacity, potential to disrupt your hormonal system, right? You mentioned plastics. Plastics are a huge health problem. In fact, global public health globally, because we are seeing the use of plastics in food industry at a rate that has never been before. More people to plastics for storing their food. In fact, it even worse when you get to the point of having to microwave your foods in plastics or putting the
Yeah.
food while the very hot plastics, because over time the chemicals, some of the chemicals, seep in food, and then you get sweets upon eating that food. So plastics are a very huge plastics. Even the air that we breathe, the air has been so polluted and messed up to the extent where some of the air or the particles that you inhale can have disrupting effect on the hormones. So there is the aspect of chemicals or plastics. And by the way, I should also mention that these plastics have a negative effect on fertility. They exert a negative effect on fertility. But this also this one is an important one. I should mention it. So there is a between a hormone called melatonin and puberty. Melatonin is the sleep hormone. All right. So by the time you are awake during the day, there is a melatonin. By the time it's getting to night, melatonin is secreted. That's why most people sleep during the night, because of melatonin. All right. What we are seeing is that people who use a lot who use gadgets, they are exposed to blue light a lot, tend to witness a drop in melatonin. And what we know is that a drop reduction in melatonin is associated with an increase onset, an increase earlier set of puberty. So there are a lot of in medicine we could use a language called Victoria. Means is that there are a combination of factors. There is diet, there is obesity, there is exposure to chemicals called endocrine disrupting. Then there is the role of gadgets. Overexposure to gadgets or blue also has a role to play in that effect. Now, having said that, there are some children, girls or boys, whose early onset of puberty is not linked or associated to any of the things I've mentioned before. Those ones is just due to maybe genetics. If you, for example, you come from a family where people attain puberty a lot earlier, you also are likely to experience that early onset of puberty. But this has always been the case until recently. We are seeing now the numbers is scary. Mentioned in that video that onset menarche before has seen an increase by up to an increase of about from 0.6 to about 1.4, and then for another age group in girls we are seeing an increase from 8.6 to about 15.5%. So these are very troubling statistics that we are slate.
Thank you very much. And I would quickly like to add something to what you just said. I remember the first time I got my menstrual cycle. My mom told me that during their time, most women attain puberty at around 15, 17 years. Some people don't even see their period at around 17 years. Like herself, she had her first period at around 16 going on 17, while I had mine at around 12 going on 13, which we've understood the fact that yes, during some years back, these are the ages where people attain puberty, while now the statistics has really dropped. So looking at the time of my mom, my time, and this time, So that means we are looking at another posing risk of it dropping lower when it gets to some years, like few years to come. That's the problem right now, because that's what I'm sensing. If my mom can tell me that during her time it was quite lower, and at my time that I was early, and then now we have issues that children are attaining puberty very early on, and the next few years we may be hearing children of probably like 4, 5 saying their menstrual cycle, which I can imagine would be very, very rare and quite scary for the parents who don't understand what to do. And I'm very happy that you were able to bring this to light, because going through the comment section, a lot of people had a lot to say about this particular issue. Like I said, during my time, people attain puberty, people see their periods at the age of 9 years old, and some people would even take their kid to the hospital to check if they were properly okay. Until the doctor will tell you that, okay, yeah, your child can attain puberty at the age of 9. It's quite normal, but it is rare. But now it's like a norm. I've seen a video of a very little girl that have hips. I don't know if you've come across a video of a very little girl, like she can't be more than 7 years old, and she has a full-grown hips of an adult. Even some adults will not have that kind of hip, I'm telling you. So I can understand where the statistic is going and how scary it is. But moving away from that, you mentioned breast cancer, which is something that is quite common in the Nigerian society for women now. That's like one of the cancer that women battle with most now. So you now mentioned that exposure to some of these things can even bring about breast cancer, which we're already dealing with in the society. And then there's another risk, we're already exposed to another risk that can require us to actually undergo breast cancer in Nigeria. So what do we say about that?
Okay, so there are a few things that can, emphasis here is on girls, because this particular trend is much more pronounced in girls. All right, but
Wow.
boys are also having it, but not to the scale seen in girls. Now, when the statistics are clear. When girls start menses earlier than normal, all right, have a higher risk of into menopause early.
Oh.
Right? So again, seeing cases of people attaining menopause barely before age 4, that's premature menopause. So we are beginning to see more cases of of premature menopause. Okay, you should understand that there is a that if a girl puberty or menses earlier than expected, she is likely to enter or achieve menopause earlier. There's a problem with that, and that's the fact that the current way of doing things, more girls are tending to go to school hard to acquire a lot of degrees. As a consequence, they are postponing childbearing until when they are 30 or when they are 40s. This trend is going to continue, right? That's what the trend says. The implication of that is for such girls who attain their menses earlier, and they decide to delay maybe childbearing until when they are in their late 30s or mid 40s, there is or a risk that they may have difficulty with fertility or childbearing. But in any case, there is a solution to that. Is the option of egg freezing for those who can afford to freeze eggs. They can go ahead and freeze eggs. So that one is not much of a problem. But the issue here is the risks associated with cancer, as well as endometrial cancer. Not just breast cancer now, we also have endometrial cancer. There are girls who start earlier than the average age, likely to experience or develop breast cancer and endometrial cancer in later life. And that's a huge, of course, that's a long problem. We have the short or immediate problem of these girls getting lies or being sexual predation, right? So that's that area that should be that we should pay a lot of attention to, particularly in practically every 10 has access to a smartphone, and they view contents that are sexualized or heavy, no, except contents that also predispose them to being easy prey for sexual prey. So these issues are very serious issues, and to govern authorities to begin to pay attention to these issues. We have something major on our hands.
Thank you very much. You spoke briefly about the use of the screen time that we give children nowadays. Parents are very used to, the new parents of today are used to giving their kids screen time right from even when they were like, let's say 3 months old. They start putting their their children on screen time. Statistics also have shown that children put on screen time below the age of 3 can have a little bit of attachment to that screen time. And you mentioned that a case of the condition called melatonin that can reduce how effective you sleep. And sleeping is very, very important. It can distort our mental health and stuff like that. But sometimes the education system now requires some children to actually be on screen time, but I would say maybe monitored screen time for what they need to do at that particular time. So I want to know the time allocation that you think is recommended for your kid to be on screen time for, and when do you start putting your child on screen time?
Okay, so it's all screen time as for children, right? And I think that's a very beautiful question you have. So it's not just that it will even disrupt their sleep, and it's much more serious than that. We are beginning to see a rise in cases of ADHD, all right, attention deficit hyperactivity, all right. We are seeing rises, autism, and the likes. Now, research has been able to link the increase in the occurrence of ADHD and other allied health issues, screen time, or early screen usage, or early access to gadgets. So, and I sometimes I understand, because we have a situation on our hands where the father is busy, the mother is busy, and sometimes giving the child a gadget can get the child distracted enough for you to maybe put effort or put time in things you're doing. I understand that. But the issue now is that onset of phone use, use of other gadgets, is very destructive for the baby's brain. In fact, I have a comment I'm going to post this week on my page, and it has to do with the popular children's show called CocoMelon. Right?
CocoMelon.
CocoMelon is like the one, but I'm going to just use CocoMelon as a catchphrase, for the video. The example is pretty simple. Children who get exposed to stimulating content, melon and others, right, from the very usually before age 2, they have risks of developing problems like ADHD and others. That is what the research has. Now, I'm not sure I remember the exact specific timeline, but here is for your child to and you now start doing, you should time, I think it's about, is it 12 more than 12 or less than that? I'm not so sure. I have that. This number is, let's say 2 hours. I'm not too sure. I think it's, let's say even if it was, that's a lot of time for a child of 3 years old to be on the screen playing games and doing that. Visually stimulating you know, visually stimulating thing can affect the brain's development. You know, in fact, it can get so bad that one child is on that game, you come into the presence of the child will not notice you. Sometimes you try
Yes.
to call the child to probably attend to something, the child will not notice you. That is how destructive that thing can be in the long run. All right. Of course, even for those that may not even have problems with autism, there is this thing about attention. So we are seeing more
Yeah.
and more children who are patient to want to pay attention. Probably you are teaching them something, need to be patient to get to understand properly. And you see that their attention span is very, very short. Once you start dragging the whole thing, they are out and they want to go and do something else. Okay. These are some issues that overexposure to gadgets, to phones, tablets, and the likes, you know, are bringing to the fore.
Thank you so much for buttressing a little bit about that. Even though these are issues that may not directly relate to the early stage of puberty that we're talking about, but these are issues also that we need to actually look into and talk about a little bit. And before we go on the show, I want to talk about the sexual aspect. You spoke briefly about sexual predators, how this can pose risk to female children. Even male children are not left out in this, because I think male children don't get the enough attention when it comes to sexual predators. You know, they don't give them that attention. The attention only focuses mostly on female children. So you spoke a little bit about the sexual aspect of early puberty, how children emotional change occurs, and also the hormonal issues starts to occur, and then they start growing interest in sexual related issues. Most especially the fact that our social media these days are not filtered, and like we said earlier before we move to this question, screen time are not limited now. Most children, compared to the olden times, have access to phones, and they can easily search things on the phone and get whatever they want get done. So I want you to speak a little bit about the sexual aspect through emotional and hormonal changes, and also the health, mental health related to this issue.
Okay, let me mention before to answering this particular question is that there is now a link between use of gadget or exposure to blue light and early
Wow.
onset of puberty. Remember, I
Wow.
mentioned melatonin. Melatonin is the
Yes.
hormone or the chemical that regulates when we sleep and when we are awake. Now, children usually have very high levels of, of melatonin. So what we see is before the onset of puberty, there is a drop in the level of melatonin. So a drop or a reduction in melatonin levels sometimes coincides with the onset of puberty. So what we are now saying, or what we are saying, is that children who use gadgets, especially before puberty, heavy use of gadgets or heavy to blue light, they tend to witness melatonin a lot faster. And remember, I mentioned that that drop or a reduction in melatonin oftentimes coincides with the onset of puberty. So the more they are using gadgets, the more they are exposing themselves to blue light, the earlier that reduction in melatonin will happen, and earlier they are likely to experience puberty. So there's a link now between
Wow.
early puberty and heavy use of phones or other gadgets. So that's that about now. To the second aspect of things, I mean, you can even start from the physical or biological aspect, which is, you know, which is the problem. I mean, on these boys, they become interested in sexual related content, sexual related topics. They start getting interested in sex, and that predisposes them to being advantage of. That was the major point I was emphasizing. We live in a world where people are looking for unsuspecting victims to to take advantage of. So it's important. And I mean, the issues if you really look at it, it's quite bad, because a girl who starts early, coitarchy, that's what we call it, the first instance of sexuality, it starts at an early. She's also more likely to be exposed to HPV, that's the human papilloma virus, and that also increases her risk of developing cervical cancer. There is that part of early onset of sex, which can also predispose her to STIs and even viruses that may increase her risk of developing cancer in future. There is that. Then there is also the mental or the emotional aspect of things. Just remember that these are still children, so to speak. And by the average girl or boy, the brain, the frontal part of the brain, that's how low, that is responsible for decision making, for thinking, for logic, is not fully developed until around age 23 to 25. In fact, it happens much earlier for girls, for guys. Guys, sometimes it can start like 28 or even much faster in ladies, 23, 25, it gets fully developed. That is why I say you should not rush to get married when your brain is not even yet fully developed. Imagine that even 20-year-old, there are people who believe that maybe that age is still pretty young. You should give yourself a bit of time. And 10 years old who are, physical, and they are getting exposed to sexual content, or they have even started experiencing sexual pleasure. That's a big problem. They are going to get confused. And emotional weight could be experience situations like depression or low self-esteem. All right. Even in the past, girls who started having breasts earlier than their peers, or starting their menses, they struggled with issues of body. They call it this thing now, positivity or negativity rather. They had
About
issues with
positivity.
self-esteem. Issues with self-esteem, and it was strong enough to their mental health. Imagine a 10-year-old girl passing by, and there are boys, grown-up boys who are, catcalling her or trying to woo her. It's quite damaging to their psyche. So there is a mental aspect of things as well that we need to pay attention to. And it's almost very peculiar to us that we pay attention to have to do with health. All right. We don't pay enough attention to the mental aspect of things. Oftentimes, they just that the child or the girl child might be pregnant, but there's something happening to this girl's mind. You are not paying attention. So the need for therapy becomes necessary. All right. Girls who may experience early onset of puberty or body changes need some degree of therapy to make them understand that okay, the changes just make them understand what their kids are going through and how they can navigate that, because it's a very, very delicate, and if it's not well managed, you can have adults who are not psychologically balanced, who have issues, depression, social anxiety, and the like. So it's a problem, and I'm happy that your platform is the initiative to this discussion.
Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning, and I really enjoyed myself talking about this thing and also learning a little bit about this. Even though I'm not a doctor, I would spread the word and also talk to my younger ones and people that I know about it. And as for you watching the program, you actually need to share this particular program and also talk to people regarding it. For me, I feel like when it comes to educational system, this really needs to talk about more extensively than just what they taught us about puberty. That is not just all what puberty about, or it has actually changed from what we know compared to now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for Elder Living on the show, Dr. Damien Ava. Thank you so much for answering our call, and also thank you for educating us on the show. I would like to let you go now so that we can round up the show, because they're already signaling to me, at the in the studio.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. So that's how we will be taking this morning on elder living, and we've just spoken a little bit about puberty, and we spoke extensively when it comes to the mental health issue, when it comes to the sexual aspect, the cancerous disease we can get from it, and the sexually transmitted disease our kids can get from this, and how the age range has been dropping for the past years, and we really need to talk to our children about it and work this journey with them so we can produce a better adult in the society. Thank you so much for joining the program today. We'll be rounding up this session right now because we need to go and also come back to re-strategize about a new topic we'll be discussing on elder living. Thank you so much for joining me for the program. I hope you learned one or two from Dr. Damien Ava. Thank you so much. I'm Kikelamo Ajibola, and you've just watched Elder Living on ConsumerHallaTV.
Right, my name is Peters, and I am a product manager. So this is a very innovative idea, and first off, everybody's a consumer, and so this is the voice of the consumer, and this is the voice that is going to be heard. For the first time, the consumers in this country are going to be able to express their ideas and to get to know your rights, to know what belongs to you, and it's going to change a lot of branding. It's going to change a lot of things because everybody knows that we're not just getting things out for the consumers. The consumers have a right to accept. You know, as they say, the customer is always right. So the customer is the consumer, and the consumer is always right. So, you know, when there is control, when there is feedback, there is bound to be change. So so I said, I'm a product manager. When you develop products, sometimes you believe you know what the users want, and through different kinds of surveys. But when the users actually get the product, they can tell you their mind, how the product is, their feeling about the product. So it's good to definitely change how products are being designed, how services are being given to people, because you can get a feedback, and that feedback can make or mar a company, you know, and everybody wants to have good feedback. So it's definitely going to change the behavior of people that make products. One very good thing is information. Information is power. So the consumer is going to get way more powerful. The voice of the consumer will be heard, the opinions of the consumers will be heard, and that opinion will shape how products and services will be made in this country going forward. Be on the lookout. You are now in charge. Several things coming your way through this station. I'm very excited about it. The things he's already brought out, and there will be many more things. But the bottom line, the consumer is now in the driver's seat. So ConsumerHallaTV, thank you for this innovative work. You're going to keep evolving and just follow the consumers. The consumers will lead you to what they want, and that's how it's supposed to be, always. You're going to have different types of consumers, and they're going to pander to the different needs, but you're going to be making consumers very, very powerful. So thumbs up, keep up the good work. My name is Peters. Thank you very much.
Hey there, do you know in the world today, everyone is a consumer, and as consumers, we all have the right to be heard.
In Nigeria today, as a consumer, you have all right to product information, right to fair pricing, right to return goods, right to product labeling, right to fair dealings, and a lot more.
Well then, have you heard about the new media channel?
ConsumerHallaTV.
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 At ConsumerHallaTV, our goal is to inform and educate consumers in Nigeria with insightful news alongside development within the fast-paced world of consumers through well-researched, specialized, and analytical content.
Our vision at ConsumerHallaTV is to create an engaging platform that provides right connections for meaningful brands in Nigeria, thus creating a more caring world for consumers where business thrive.
And guess what? Our Consumer Hala brand is the first consumer complaint resolution portal in Nigeria, powered by a 72-hour feedback mechanism. We offer consumer advocacy, informative talk shows, branding promotions, advertising, and a lot more. Connect with us via our YouTube channel at ConsumerHallaTV. Follow us on our Facebook page, ConsumerHallaTV, our Instagram page, ConsumerHallaTV, and do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscription is free. ConsumerHallaTV at ConsumerHallaTV. It's 12 now. Hello there. Welcome to ConsumerHallaTV Media News. We begin the news this hour from Lagos State, where Nigeria's Food and Drug Regulator has confiscated a banned, expired, and unregistered goods valued at more than 1.5 billion naira in a major enforcement operation in Lagos State, as the agency intensifies its campaign against unsafe consumer products. However, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, said on Saturday over the weekend at the cosmetics section of the city's trade fair market. Officials also intercepted a truckload of counterfeit products regulated by the agency. In regard to this development, Dr. Martins Iluyomade, a NAFDAC Director of Investigation and Enforcement,